Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Brian, your National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. And in today's video on the Hall of Gains, we're going to be talking about should you continue a cut while you are recovering from an injury. Now, the reason why I really wanted to cover this topic because I recently just went through a minor injury, and I hate injuries because I'm trying to get in good shape. I am a personal trainer, but I'm not to the point where I want to be yet in terms of looks. And I pulled a muscle in my abs right here during deadlifts, or rack pulls rather. And yeah, it basically slowed down my training a lot. I had to take 2 weeks off from lifting, and it sucked. It really did suck. I hate doing that. And now this begged the question for me is, how important it is to get a certain amount of calories in when you're recovering from an injury, because that's important. Because one, this is an important thing that you should note if you go on a diet. If you go on a big calorie deficit diet, you are more likely to get injured. You're going to be more tired. You're not going to recover as fast. So if you're more likely to get injured while you're on a diet, it also is very likely to me that it is going to be slowing the process of you actually getting back to the point of where you're healing. Now, this is what I noticed for me. So a few weeks ago, I pulled a muscle in my abs. It wasn't good. It's not a good place to pull a muscle. Luckily, I didn't tear it, but I pulled a muscle there, and I did what you're supposed to do. I stopped putting stress on it. I started stretching it, I started resting it, icing it, heating it when applicable. And usually with muscle, when you pull a muscle, I'm not a doctor, but this is something that I have done, and what I can gather online is you wait a week of resting, icing, stretching, heating, and if it's gotten better over the course of a week, then you slowly rehab it. So I started doing ab exercises and doing that very slowly, very easily, and I've built it up to now the point where I think that my pulled ab is about a 95 to like 98% recovered. But for me, what really boosted this recovery is I've been on a 1,000 to 1,250 calorie deficit, which means I burn 1,000 to 1,250 calories more than I eat. That's a lot. That's a pretty restrictive diet in terms of how calories in versus calories out. And I am pretty active, so I do eat quite a bit, but for how much I burn, it's not too much. And what I noticed is for the first week, for the first 2 days it started to get better. The third day it didn't. The fourth day got a bit worse. The fifth day got a bit worse. The sixth day wasn't that better at all. Seventh day got a bit worse. And I kind of realized that it probably was because I didn't change my diet. I was not eating enough. And so basically I did some research, and if you suffer an injury, your body will actually start burning more calories because it will take energy to replenish that. So your metabolic rate will be boosted at least slightly if you're injured. And what I was doing is I stopped lifting weights, but I replaced that with a couple of walks a day to get the same amount of caloric burn. But I kept the same amount of what I was eating, and it wasn't really recovering well, not really at all. So basically, what I did is I'm like, okay, this past weekend, or a couple weekends ago, I was going to a big family friend gathering, and yeah, none of us got COVID, so we're good. But anyways, what happened here was, the day before, I had a cheat day. I went in about a 300 calorie surplus. The day of that party, I was in about a maintenance to 100 calorie surplus. And then the day after the party, I was at about a 250 calorie deficit. So while I was still in a deficit, it was still way more than my body was used to having. Within those 3 days, I had by far the most recovery that I have ever had when it came to the ab pull. I pulled a muscle in my abs for the first week. It really only got worse, except for the first 2 days. Once I started eating more, it healed way quicker. And then over the course of last week, I was eating at about a 500 to 200 calorie deficit. So I was still in a deficit, but I was eating well a lot more. Basically, I went from eating about 2,600 calories a day to about 3,100 to like 3,400 a day. I was still, basically losing weight, but it was just at a slower rate so I could heal faster. So one thing that you need to realize, guys, is like I said, the bigger the caloric deficit you're on, the more likely you're going to get hurt, the longer those injuries are going to last, and like I said, you're not going to recover as fast, and it's just you're going to be tired all the time. So that's what I am so ready to be done with this diet. I only have like probably a couple months left until I go on a even less restrictive version of the diet. I'll probably go to maybe 300 to 400 calorie deficit. Then I'll get to like maintenance and a very slight bulk once I like have abs. But anyways, the important thing to note is if you have an injury and it does boost your metabolic rate, then if you maintain your diet and it was already restrictive, so let's say I was at, like I said, I was at 1,000 to 1,250. Let's say I was on average 1,100 calorie deficit. Now this injury happens and I'm at, let's say, a 1,300 calorie deficit. I'm going to be recovering even slower because my body has my metabolic rate's been boosted. So this is what I would suggest if you do injure yourself, and it's a minor injury, not one where you have to go see a doctor. But like I said, I'm not a doctor. This is just advice that you definitely should not follow. But basically, eat a bit more. You don't have to go into a massive surplus or even a surplus at all. Like I said, I did do a couple days of a surplus, but besides that, every other day since I started eating more, I was still in a deficit. In fact, the 500 calorie deficit is still a decent enough deficit. That's you'll lose a pound of fat a week. But yeah, so if you do get an injury and it's minor, and this probably goes for its major too, but you should definitely go see a doctor if you have a major injury and ask them about that. But if you suffer a major or a minor injury and you're on a big diet, now I would consider a pretty restrictive diet if you're significantly above a 500 calorie deficit, so 750 to 1,000 and even more. So that is pretty restrictive. I'd say maybe do a couple days of maintenance to above, and then after that, go into just a less restrictive version of your diet. If you're at a 750 calorie deficit, maybe go to 250 or 500. If you're at 1,000, go to 750 or 500. So when I was first dieting, when I started this diet in the beginning of this January, this new year, I started at 1,000 calorie deficit, and I did it for so many months. It got to the point where I was so tired, I wasn't recovering from workouts, so I changed my diet, and I went on a 750 calorie deficit, and I was way more energized. I was recovering more. I was less sore at times. That's only 250 calories, guys. You think that's not a lot, but it really did change a lot. And going from 1,000 to 750, yeah, you're going to lose weight at a lower rate, but still a pound and a half of fat a week. If you think about it, 10 weeks, you lost 15 pounds of fat. In half a year, you lost 40 pounds of fat. In a year, you lost 80 pounds of fat. That's still a really good rate. So don't be afraid to, at least for a brief time, increase the amount of food you're eating and amount of calories you're getting to actually progress with the recovery of an injury. With that being said, that's it for the video. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.